It's the 10th of April, 1993. Chris Hani, leader of the South African Communist Party, is murdered, assassinated. It was a horrifying act that brought South Africa to the brink of civil war. Four bullets and nearly no Rainbow Nation, no reconciliation. But the motives and thoughts behind the man who pulled the trigger has remained a mystery. This Polish man with his icy stare, unflinching, impenetrable. Up to now, his Polish friends and family have remained silent.
That's beyond my understanding. It's not him.
Odpowiedź. Przypuszczam, w nim się coś złamało.
20 years later, does anyone know Janusz Walus? We go to Poland, find his daughter, his secret police files, his childhood home, looking for the man who murdered Chris Hani.
During your discussions and decisions to become murderers, didn't you give serious consideration that there may have been another way to the country's problems?
Mogłem brać pod uwagę, ale widziałem, że to nic nie przyniesie, ani nic nie zmieni.
But I knew that nothing will change and nothing good will come out of that.
Janusz Walus shot and killed South African Communist Party leader Chris Hani outside his home in Boksburg. It began as nothing more than an ordinary Sunday. Mr. Hani had just gone out to buy the Sunday papers. Walus was sentenced to death for the murder, along with his co-conspirator, Conservative Party MP Clive Derby-Lewis. Both men were denied amnesty at the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Derby-Lewis is usually blamed for orchestrating the assassination. Walus pulled the trigger, but Derby-Lewis provided the murder weapon. A lot has been said about Derby-Lewis and his wife Gay, the former nun turned right-wing journalist. But Janusz Walus has remained an enigma. This pale man, stony-faced, who drove large trucks and sold crystals at night. His brother Witold emigrated to South Africa in 1976. Today he lives a quiet life in Pretoria, refurbishing tanks with his parrot, Dakota. His home feels like a recreation of little oldie world Poland. After 20 years of silence, he has agreed to talk to me about his brother Janusz. Janusz emigrated to South Africa from Poland in 1981 with his father, who set up a glass and crystal factory in the Free State. He left behind his wife and little girl Eva. He was fleeing impending martial law under the Polish communist regime.
You were always looking over your shoulder. You never knew whom you really are talking to. Even in a group of friends, you never knew if somebody is not reporting. We managed never to be arrested. The real resistance to the communist government was broken in the first 10 years. So we basically had to silently endure the propaganda, giving the greatest villains in our history, giving them as the heroes. We had to just silently endure, because opening your mouth could bring trouble not only on you, but on the whole family. My uncle, my father's brother, was for 4 years a prisoner in Auschwitz, and then for another year in Buchenwald by the end of the war. And despite his experiences, we, the youngsters, were sometimes asking him which regime did the worst damage to Poland and to Polish nation, which was more brutal towards the people. And despite his experiences, he said that definitely the communists, the Bolsheviks, did much more damage.
Not the Nazis?
Not the Nazis in this case.
So what made you come here?
South Africa was obviously reviled in the communist propaganda. And because we always hated the communist propaganda, so we felt, okay, enemy of our enemy should be our friend.
Janusz was working as a lorry driver in the 1980s, transporting goods to and from Zimbabwe for his employer, Peter Jackson, who was an arms dealer. Everything was okay until Janusz joined the Conservative Party and then the AWB. He met its late leader, Eugene Blanche. He also met members of the National Intelligence Service and the South African Defence Force. It seemed like quite a radical thing to do for someone so quiet and seemingly passive, but nobody saw that Easter Sunday in 1993 coming.
I found out actually from the radio, press or whatever. It was quite a traumatic thing. It was a shock, but it wasn't really totally a surprise. I think the best way to understand Janusz, and not only him, lots of people from the countries which fall under the communist regime, is to go there and meet some people and see some records.
You think we should go to Poland?
Oh, I definitely think you should go to Poland.
So I'm about to go to Poland to find out more about Janusz Walus and why he felt so strongly that he should murder a communist in Africa. Chris Hani, a hero to so many South Africans.